You know, for the first month of 2022, this has been a pretty even-handed thing. Had some dog shit January movies, like Ice Age Adventures of Buckwild, or whatever the hell it was called, and Redeeming Bullcrap. But we've also had, for January, a few surprisingly great movies, like Scream, Belle, and this weekend, The Fallout, which are all totally fantastic and totally worth checking out. But what's odd is that some of the best movies of the year, many of you will probably not get to see for a while, that I've seen. That's right, everybody. It's the big, super duper, extra crunchy, chocolate coated Sundance video. Let's get into it. So, here's how we're gonna break this down. In total, of this week and a half or so of Sundance, I have seen 20 things. 6 of them being feature films, 1 of them being an indie episodic, and 13 of which being short films. So we're going to break them down. We're going to start with the features. Well, actually, we're going to save the movies for the end. So we're going to start with shorts. Short films we're going to begin with, as well as indie episodic. And we might as well start with indie episodic. And let's just go in order of what I saw. Got my handy dandy, super extra crunchy list right here, as you do. On IMDb, no less. My IMDb super duper list. The first short I saw was a short film that's actually 7 years old. It was one of the anniversary shorts that I had not seen. And that film was a film called Mobilize. This was directed by Carolyn Monette. And it was a 2015 short film, experimental kind of art film, that essentially mixes videos and footage and images together in a non-narrative structure, but building an intensity. It's about 5 minutes. I loved it. I thought it was a beautiful piece of art. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Moving on. Now we get to the indie episodic, which is one of the best things I saw at the festival. This is indie episodic, for those who know. It's pilots for shows that are independently that are meant to be taken on a series. So, like, for instance, in past years, the pilot for the Adult Swim show The Shivering Truth premiered at Sundance, among others. So the first episode of Search Party premiered at Sundance, I believe, Downward Dog, and now we have this show that, if this didn't get better for a series, I'm riding. It's called Culture Beat. This was, among the people who created it, was Eric Andre, and it's essentially a man-on-the-street faux reality show parody. Like, imagine if the most Mountain Dew-ish dude bro on the planet were hosting, like, an Anthony Bourdain Parts Unknown type show. That's essentially this. It's basically this guy, and he goes to different, the theme of it is, what is art? And he goes to an art museum, it's like, this is a classy place, and it's literally so many dicks and badges that it's literally... The whole thing is one big blur of pixelation. I thought, and they're like melding into the pixels. Very funny. It gave me one of my favorite quotes of anything of the year so far, which is, I am everywhere, I am nowhere. I am anonymous. My name is Lucas. Because there's like all sorts of stuff, shenanigans. It's only 6 minutes long. They need to make this a full series. I will watch it. I think this is, Eric Andre, I already love him. Looking forward to seeing him, this coming weekend in Jackass Forever. Taking a friend of mine to see. We're going to have a grand old time. And, yeah, I'm going to give Culture Beat 5 stars as well. So, moving on. The next short I watched was a short entitled Meal on the Plate. This was directed, this is a Chinese production. It was directed by, I believe, it was directed by and written by a fellow by the name of Changlin Zi? Yeah. And, I'm not going to lie, this is one of the weakest things I saw at the festival, sadly. Yeah, it's very well animated. Essentially what it's about is it's a silent short in which essentially the phrase "you are what you eat" becomes weirdly prophetic as people start to turn into the animals of which the meat they're consuming, all the way down to consuming the one vegetarian alive. Essentially, yes, in case you were wondering, this is an allegory for... the environmental effects of meat production. I don't mind the allegory itself. I just thought it was really on the nose. And the way it was put together, it could have been better. It just kind of was, it was quick. It was only about, maybe it was like 9 minutes long. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars because I really did admire the effort, but it just wasn't all there for me. Moving on. The next short we watched was a short, roughly 10 minutes long, entitled Daddy's Girl. This is an American short. It was written and directed by Lena Hudson, and it was a comedic short. Funny, charming little film. It's essentially about this young woman who is moving out of her much older boyfriend's place with her pot-smoking dad, helping her move out, and you begin to see this weird sort of... let's put it this way. We open the movie with her watching what's implied to be a certain type of porn. So essentially, yes, in case you're wondering, yes, the running joke of the thing is that she's dating an older guy because she probably has some daddy issues. And that's essentially what the setup of the movie is. But despite how weird it sounds, it's actually kind of a sweet movie, like, because it doesn't go the direction you think it does. It goes in a way that's actually just kind of warm and feel good. I dug Daddy's Girl. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Our next film was a delightful horror comedy short that also was a really good allegory. It was more on those, but at least it was funny. It was called Appendage. This was directed by Anna Zlakovic. It starred Rachel Sennett from one of my favorite films of last year, Ship a Baby, as well as Eric Robertson, probably the best thing he's done since The Dark Knight, quite frankly. And essentially, it's a horror comedy where a young woman imagines that her anxiety is becoming a growth, like, on her stomach. Like, it's literally like there's, like, a growth on, like, the side of her body that is telling her she sucks. Almost like a weird, deformed Cronenbergian baby, and she cuts it off and then has to, like, chase it around her house. A weird little short, but it was a good allegory about anxiety as someone who has anxiety to a degree. I kind of related to the character struggle. A cute concept, well executed. I gave it 4 out of 5 stars. Next film was another one of the weaker entries. It was a film entitled Champ. This was a short film directed and written by Hannah Peterson. My biggest issue with it, before I even tell you what it's about, is its handling subject matter. So essentially, the lead actress in it is very good. It's a young actress by the name of Eva Noblezada. She, to me, was best known as the star of one of my favorite films from 2020, Yellow Rose, which I thought was fantastic, and she's good in this. Essentially what it's about is this young basketball player. She's having a sleepover with the rest of her teammates, and she admits to the fact that her coach sexually assaulted her, essentially, and they decide to get revenge on the guy and the coach. Here's the problem. I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars. Here's my problem with Champ. She gives a good performance. It is way too lighthearted for a film about such serious subject matter. They treat the subject matter kind of, and the revenge scheme, like something out of a Disney comedy, where essentially they vandalize the dude's house. And the music's real weirdly upbeat. It's like, it doesn't handle the subject very well. It kind of treats it, especially compared to another short we're going to talk about a little later. It really felt like, man, they really handled this great. But I gave it 3.5 out of 5 stars because I did admire the effort. I thought it was great. Not one of the best things, it wasn't that great. Alright, now on to one of the best things I saw, that, one of 2 shorts where the director liked my Letterboxd review, so thanks to that. That film is a film called Fuck 'Em Right Back. This was written and directed by Harris Doran, who liked my review. Thank you, Harris Doran. It's excellent. It's a comedy thing that almost feels like it could be a series in the vein of something like A Broad City or An Awkwafina's Nora from Queens, and they really should make this. It's about a gay African-American rap artist named DTM, who is basically shenanigans ensue where he finds out his boss, who already kind of has it out for him, is doing a randomized drug test, and he kind of flies into a thing when he realizes that he accidentally has consumed an edible, and he's going to fail the drug test, so he does everything in his power to outsmart his boss while he gets the drugs out of his system. A very, very, very fun movie with some great songs. Really fun. It was about 14 minutes long. Just one of the funniest things I saw at the fest. I really loved it. It's fantastic. Next one we saw was a film called Au Revoir Jerome, or in English, Goodbye Jerome. This was a French short animated film. It was 8 minutes long. And it was directed by 3 people. Chloe Farr, Gabrielle Selnet, and Adam Sillard. And this was very much a style over substance kind of short, but what style? Essentially, it looked like something like a 70s French art painting. Is essentially this guy, he kind of ends up in like a dreamlike world looking for a young woman whom he lost, and a lot of stuff happens. Really, really fun flick. Next one is another one that's one of the big high points of it. I gave Au Revoir Jerome. I gave Fuck 'Em Right Back 5 stars. I gave Au Revoir Jerome 4.5 stars. Alright. Next short was one called Bump. This was directed by and starring and written by Maziar Khatam. And it's a 3-minute short. It almost runs like a comedy skit. Essentially, it's a guy gets bumped on the street. The guy bumps into a guy, and it turns into this kind of increasingly silly thing where he just will not let it go. And the conversation that follows leads to some funny ends. A really funny short, kind of all about how we get kind of hung up on our own bullshit. I liked it a lot. I thought it was really funny. I gave it 4.5 stars. Alright. Let's wrap up the shorts real quick, and then we'll get to the features in part 2. We'll take a little break. Alright. Well, please stand by in a second, and then we'll do... Our next 2 almost are of a piece, one of which was also liked by the director on my review. The first one is a film entitled... that it was one of the best things I saw. It was called You've Never Been Completely Honest. It was directed and written by a fellow by the name of Joey Izzo, and it is a mix of animation and documentary charting the torture that was inflicted on... It basically takes an interview from the 70s and brings it to life through animation and stock footage about a guy's time and what would be a precursor to like a new age self-help cult and what he suffered through. A powerful film, roughly about 15 minutes. Really packs a major punch. I gave that movie 5 stars. Next film. Chili and Millie. This was the other one that was from the director who liked my review, and that was William David Caballero. Thank you, William David Caballero. And it is based on his parents' actual life. It mixes animation with live-action footage. He basically is following his parents, his father of which suffers from diabetes, among many others, and has a tireless caregiver in his mother who has made a lot of sacrifices. And his father sadly lost his life in the heat of the COVID pandemic. And it's about his mother's struggle to cope. And this is sort of like an almost eulogy for his late father. And also sort of a tribute to his mother's strength and courage in being the caretaker that she was. Beautiful film. I gave it 5 stars. Fantastic. It's about 10 minutes. Great little short film. Next film. Training Wheels. This was written, directed by, and starring Alison Rich, who I believe is on The Goldbergs. I think that's where I know her from. And it is essentially, she meets a guy, and she kind of falls for him, and then she uses him essentially to test who she's going to date. Basically a Training Wheels boyfriend, and then she realizes she's fallen in love with the guy. Cute film, I gave it 4 stars out of 5. Alright, you know what we're gonna do? Well, we have time for the other 2, I guess. Or we have time for at least one more. Shark is the next film. It is written, directed by, and starring Nash Edgerton, a brother of Joel Edgerton, who also did Gringo. This is one of the films in his Jack trilogy of short films. Really funny with him and Rose Byrne, where he's the prankster known as Jack, and he meets his match and his new girlfriend, where they do a prank involving a shark, and shenanigans ensue. A lot of fun. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. We'll be back with the final short as well as the features in part 2. See you then. Take care. See you then. Bye. We are back. Hi. So we're gonna finish out shorts right now with the final short, which I just watched today. If I didn't mention before, Shark got 4.5 out of 5 stars. Last short we watched was a short called, with the very eye-catching title, Starfuckers. This was directed by and co-starring Antonio Marzial. I hope I got your name right, sir. And this was terrific. It took a little longer to get going. It's about 15 minutes long. It focuses on an actor who is LGBTQ+, who meets sort of a familiar person one night. He's kind of an escort. He's an escort, male escort, and he essentially befriends, or he runs into kind of an old person, and then things bubble up, and it turns out he might have another reason for why it's there, a very surreal, performative reason. That's all I'll say about it, and it's all about abuse. It's about how young child actors are abused. Really powerful film. Very much on the kind of Lynchian weird side. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars because it was just so unique. I thought there were some problems, but what was great about it was so great that it kind of overpowered everything else. So now we move on to feature films to wrap up this puppy. First film was a classic. Okay, we'll start with feature films. First one was our pre-test screening, and were testing the equipment by showing a classic Sundance film, which luckily I had not seen until last week. And that film, the first one I saw on my new fancy Sundance screener app, was The Incredibly True Adventure of Two Girls in Love. This film came out in 1995, and it was directed and written by Maria Magenti. And the only actress I recognized from it was Nicole Ari Parker, was one of the titular two girls. What a wonderful film. This was a really wonderful little movie, an early sort of nuclear cinema feature that deserved more attention. I had not heard of it at all until I saw it, and I was blown away by kind of how realistic and kind of stripped down and simple it was. It was very much this, it costs like something like $250,000. It's a very low budget film, but it's really intimate and funny and charming, and it treats its characters' problems like they matter. It doesn't feel put on. It just feels very naturalistic. I gave it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Now, the first new film I saw is, I think, the best film I saw at the entire fest. And it's one that I really can't talk about. Now, I also want to point out, the new films on this list, we will talk about further in we'll get their own review toward when they're being released. 2 of those films are coming out, 3 of them are coming out in March, and the rest are to come. I don't know when they're going to be, but we're just going to do quick little hit reviews. I may or may not get score. So the first film I saw was Fresh. A film called Fresh. This was directed by Mimi Cave in her feature debut. Damn it, what a review. What a debut. This film is kind of 2 films in one, in kind of an ingenious way. It stars Daisy Edgar Jones, who I could have sworn for most of the movie was Ella Hunt. They look exactly alike, from Dickinson. And Sebastian Stan, the Winter Soldier. And this is a record for me. The longest a movie has gone that I could gather before the opening credits begin, which is 38 minutes. It takes 38 minutes for the opening credits to start. And there's a very good reason for that. The film, just to put it brief, the first 38 minutes are essentially a rom-com. Daisy Edgar Jones has been going on these terrible sort of dating app dates. She meets Sebastian Stan at a supermarket. They chit-chat over him buying, for what he says is his sister and niece, like a little baggie of cotton candy-infused grapes. And she takes a chance and comes to like him, and then goes on a getaway. And then before long, he turns out to have a sinister motive. We find out at the 38-minute mark. But what the sinister motive is, and he abducts her, but then what the sinister motive is, I can't reveal here. But it is insane. It totally blows you over, and it's dark, and it's horrific, and it's funny, and it's weird, and it's a film that I will not be able to recommend to everyone, but I absolutely loved Fresh. It's guaranteed on my list of the best films of the year. I loved it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I fucking loved Fresh. This movie, it's weirdly enough, Searchlight Pictures is putting it out on Hulu. It is produced by Legendary Pictures. That's Dune, the same producer who did Weird. This movie was like, imagine Get Out. The only way I can describe it is, imagine if When Harry Met Sally, Get Out, and Raw had like a baby. That's essentially what Fresh is, and it's awesome. I fucking love this movie. 5 out of 5 stars. This movie's awesome. Alright. 5 out of 5 stars for Fresh. We'll have a full review for it coming up March 4th, I believe, unless they change it. You know, for now, it's March 4th. The next film I watched at the fest was a film that we will not be probably reviewing for a good little while, because it has not even picked up a distributor yet. And that film is The Cathedral. This was written and directed by Ricky D'Ambrose. This is his second feature. And how much did I love this movie? I love it so much that since viewing this second film by him, I seeked out his obscure first film, which is about an hour-long gem called Notes on an Appearance, which is also quite terrific. The Cathedral's even better. So, The Cathedral, what is it about? It's not really what it's about. It's a very much an experimental coming-of-age drama. How about this? Imagine Boyhood if you see it through the lens of memory more than you do of time moving onward. Essentially, it's autobiographical. He stated in the Q&A it's about sort of the breakdown of this kid's view of his parents from when he's like a little... Basically, it starts the night that he was conceived by his parents, and it ends with him graduating high school. And you kind of see... his parents in the film are played by Monica Barbero, who's going to be in this Top Gun sequel, and Brian Darcy James, who's perhaps best known as Andy Baker, Hannah's dad on 13 Reasons Why, as well as more recently Officer Kropke in West Side Story. Gee, Officer Kropke, crop you! And Shrek on Broadway. And essentially it's this sort of family... And there's sort of feuding within the family. Among them is sort of a cousin who is really cruel to his elderly mother, played by the dad from Escape from Tomorrow, who has a funny little cameo playing another kind of awful human being. The guy's really good at it. And essentially, it's this just really low-key, touching little movie that is so experimental. It has the same level of distance that children kind of view their own lives. You can tell that he didn't just want to make a movie about his coming of age. He wanted to make a movie coming of age from the distance that a kid would see it. And so much so, and he did this a little bit in Notes on an Appearance too. It's done almost anthropologically. There's a narrator, and there's a lot of documentation that pops up on the screen where they're explaining. There's this female narrator who never really appears in the movie, but kind of knows everything, and is kind of... It's not simply... There's not a lot of actual spoken dialogue. It's kind of a lot of the scenes of the kid with his parents, and then the narrator kind of going, this would be the last time that his father would live in the house anymore. They divorced shortly thereafter, or something like that. But they would have some beautiful moments. There's a scene where the kid is discussing for a photography class when he's in his teenage years, and he's discussing is weirdly poetic, where he's talking about a photograph that was taken of him when he was 2 years old of his 2 aunts, his mother's sisters, having a conversation that someone took a picture, and he brought it in, and he noted that something along the lines of, it's so weird to think about how they haven't been back there really since that moment, but my dad, we don't live there anymore, my dad's still there, and he says, the room is still there, but the 2 people aren't. Isn't that something? I was like, damn. You moved me. As a child of divorce myself, and the other thing is, as a child of divorce, there were little moments in this that just personally connected with me in a way that very few films have on the subject. I love The Cathedral. I gave that one 5 stars too. I absolutely love that film. It's not going to be for everyone because it's so abstract and experimental that it will not be for everyone. But I loved it. It's gonna probably be a while before anyone else gets to see it, maybe a good year or so, but once you do, it's not gonna play probably in a lot of theaters if it does at all. It's very limited in its audience, but if you can, go check out The Cathedral. Okay. We're getting into the nitty-gritty. Next film, we're gonna run over, and I don't want to do a part 3. Our next film is a film that you might see, I think you're going to get later this year. AMC Plus picked it up after the premiere, which I attended. And that film is Duel, D-U-A-L. This was written and directed by Riley Stearns. I am unfamiliar with his work, but now I want to be more familiar with it. He preceded the films Faults and The Art of Self-Defense, which I have not seen. And this film has an enticing premise that, in kind of a bold way, it does not want to engage with at fucking all. Duel is... The beginning of the movie has a Theo James from A Divergent, and they establish the rules of this universe. So, Karen Gillan, and it sets you for more of an action film. This is a very, very sardonic, dark comedy that happens to have an action sequence in the opening minutes, and really never goes back there again. Essentially, the film is Karen Gillan plays a young woman named Sarah. She is, she finds out that she has, an incurable stomach disease that is going to kill her. Her doctor says, like, there is no chance you're gonna live. Like, this is it. The only chance you have is within the 2% margin of error. And she's like, well, shit, what am I gonna do? In this kind of semi-distant future, there's a new biological company called Replacement, where essentially you can clone yourself to help with the bereavement process. Essentially, you clone yourself, and they become you to avoid your parents having to mourn you once you're gone. And your parents, loved ones, family members. She's like, well, I gotta go do that. So she clones herself, and then begins to become kind of annoyed with the clone. Because the clone has to be her, she's, having sex with her boyfriend, talking to her mom, doing things for herself, and then, wouldn't you know it, she fell within the 2% margin of error. She's not going to die after all. She's making a full recovery. Oh no. So in this future, what you do when that happens is you have to fight your doppelganger to the death on national TV at an arena. Like, basically a football field. But with them, and so she teams up with this quirky trainer played by Aaron Paul from Breaking Bad to kind of get to that point. From there, it's not an action movie. It's this weirdly sardonic movie. I kind of describe it as, imagine if a Jared Hess movie or a Wes Anderson movie were shot by Michael Mann's cinematographer, or Michael Bay's cinematographer. You basically have Duel, and I loved it. I really loved it. It's so weird and so out there. It's so out there, but I loved its sense of humor. It's very, very quirky and fun. I gave it 4.5 stars out of 5, mainly because the ending was a little bit abrupt and kind of a head-scratcher, but otherwise, I did love it, and I love that it was kind of the biggest anti-joke ever. And it's gonna piss some people off, but I really dug Duel. I look forward to checking out Riley Stearns' other stuff. Last 2 films we're going to talk about. Next up is one we don't need to talk about long. It's Lucy and Desi. We'll have a full review for this on March 4th as well. When it will be on Amazon Prime Video. It's directed by Amy Poehler. It's her 3rd feature film, the last being a film I loved, Moxie. Did I love Lucy and Desi? No, I didn't, but I liked it fine. This is a documentary on Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, their relationship, and much more to say about it than I was kind of disappointed. It was felt kind of standard. It was kind of like one of those documentaries you would show at a retirement party, but despite that, toward the end, there were a couple of moments that were so touching that it elevated it. It was a 3-star movie that became a 4-star movie at the end, but it's nothing great. It's not essential. I'll give Lucy and Desi, like I said, 4 stars. And then finally, we have a thing we can't talk about that much anyway, and that is Act 1 of Genius, a Kanye trilogy. Yes, I happened to get tickets for a screening. And part 1 was very good. I still haven't finished the show yet. It's only 90 minutes of a 4.5-hour thing, so when I get to watch parts 2 and 3, we will score it and do an actual review. But until then, it was good. Don't know what I think of it until I get the full picture, but I liked it so far. So there we go. That was Sundance. Don't have time to outro, so all the stuff. See you next time. And thanks. Bye. Okay, real quick. We're going to end this. We will be back soon. Thanks for hanging the Sundance with me. We will see you for more stuff next time. That'll be next time. And until next time, I'm Grant, the movie and TV guy. And this was Raised on Popcorn with Grant's coverage of Sundance Film Festival. And we will see you all next time. And until next time, I'm Grant, the movie and TV guy. I see it all and I'm happy to share it with you. I love you all. I appreciate you all. I love you all. Customists. I love you 3000. Be kind to one another. If you like this video, give it a like if you want to. Give it a subscribe if you want to. Give it the bell. I don't know what it does, what that's supposed to do. Or so I've been told. If you want to find me also reviews this and other fun stuff, you can check me out on Letterboxd.com at Raised on Popcorn with Grant. Some of you already have, but even if you haven't, take care of yourselves, take care of your mental health. And always remember, we were all raised on popcorn. Make mine with extra butter. And see you next time. Bye.